So we have a couple of minutes for questions, but we'll just start off with a question for you. And this is a broad one. You were all touching upon this issue of responsibility. Whose responsibility is it? And you were talking about the responsibility of the consumer. What's the responsibility of regulators, providers, and platforms?
I start with the platform. I think what I tried to say earlier is the responsibility for platform to let people feel safe wherever they are and get rid of speech like, I'm not sure if the us versus them get completely out there, but clearly defined hate speech, threats, bullying, big topic, bullying, all of those things, and enable the users of those platforms to find easily moments to report it, to appeal if something came down or not, to learn and to educate, not just changing something. I know we can do this quite often. Not only change, but also explain what do we do and how to use it. And I think for regulators, at the end, we are electing our regulators. So we as a society should have a conversation, and we had this earlier, on what kind of a society we would like to live in, with all of the tremendous opportunities that we have. And alone this morning, like the internet, the information, alone this morning I could spot, I think, 3 or 5 friends of mine who would be scared to death with the thought of having this brain thing, and then with thoughts kind of lifting up the drone. Others would say, how crazy are you to do a genome test with Anu? You know, new technology fears, we have to make sure that we as a society define what it is, and we cannot leave it to them who are elected as regulators and politicians, but we have to engage. So this is kind of the two.
Just a quick follow-up. So
please.
Yesterday, Russia commented on Facebook's removal of several groups and posts and accounts. What's the long-term strategy for Facebook to deal with issues like this? Is it removing these accounts, or is there more of a long-term solution?
As I'm an optimist, I would hope that at one time we have, as a society again, and this cannot only do Facebook, this needs to be done, and especially this we have not done alone. We have gotten tips from companies we work with as much as also governments and agencies that I think others are much more experts than me. I would believe, yes, we take it down. I mean, this is inauthentic behavior. These are fake accounts. These are not real persons. This is stuff that we don't want to have. We would like people that what they see on Facebook, that they can believe that's really you, that's really me, that's really Katerina, Mozilla, Michael, whoever. But, you know, and long term, I do not know. And personally, I feel that you could also see that we had to take down other accounts which were not originated from Russia, but from other countries, from Iran in that case. And I would say, I fear that this might be not the end, but we continue to do this. But it will be kind of a rat race, right? Because people will find new ways in kind of going into platforms, may it be ours, may it be others, because we were also not the only ones taking stuff down. And so we have to make sure that we have all tools in place and just work on that. My optimists say at one point we will overcome that, and people will be educated, they will see that, they won't believe everything that they click on with a great headline, which sounds interesting, and will kind of be responsible, but it's a long, long, long way. And I think we touched all of the edges around it. Education, you know, it's a big, big part of it. How you bring people up, how we teach the young ones how to use this kind of great tool. But again, the responsibility is with the platforms also, and we will continue to do that. But I think there is no solution where I can say, yeah, we have done this in 5 years or so. I doubt it.
So a bit unclear still.
I think I was just going to add something too. So I think what we need to do, and I'm not proposing like amazing solutions, but I think as like humanity, like if we're trying to just make sure that true stuff about them is the only thing that reaches us, then we're kind of not curing the thing that's kind of dividing us, right? So if we're waiting for us to get rid of all kind of like Russian interference in U.S. elections on Facebook, then we're kind of missing the point, because a lot of the stuff that, at least the stuff that I read in the beginning, and then I got kind of sick of reading about it. A lot of the stuff was basically just getting people to fight with each other, right? So they would be taking the extreme version of something, and then they'd try to get the other people to fight with them. And so we shouldn't be thinking, hey, how do we just make sure that only true bad information about the other side comes out? We should be like teaching ourselves and noticing it, like I said, to not completely divide ourselves from that other side. Think about what's actually good for our families, what's good for our communities, and not whether the other side, because the other side almost never, and not en masse at least, wants to hurt us and our families. They want to help themselves and their families, right? And so we need to find that commonality, as opposed to trying to get true indications of when they're against us or not.
And Katharina, what do you say? And perhaps also, is there a responsibility on the browsers?
You don't have any easier questions for me? I think we're all responsible as technology organizations and as individuals, as I said earlier, but this is so incredibly complex, and no matter what we build, and no matter how well-intended it is, technology will always have unintended consequences, and oftentimes the consequences are bad and rotten. You could say that, yes, we could have, I think there was a certain techno-utopia in the past that got us to only see the great sides and be super enthusiastic about it. And I'm as guilty as anyone of that. I think we need to be more critical. I think academia needs more money to do research much faster, because the problem we have right now is that we're putting technology out in the wild, which is great, and but we need much more research much faster. We also need to educate lawyers, regulators better about the unintended consequences. It's a fact of life that regulation can never keep up with the speed of social change and technology innovation. It only reflects the social change that is already ongoing, which is why there's also an interesting cultural difference. Europeans are generally very fond of regulation. They think that regulation sets frameworks, that keeps checks on powerful corporations, and that can keep the balance between the public and corporations. The American point of view, my colleagues in California, where I live now, are close to a heart attack already, because they're that is not the general approach the US takes to regulation. I think having good regulatory frameworks is incredibly important. We need those. But it is also incredibly important to get it right, and that is very difficult. We see the same unintended consequences in bad regulation. We've seen bad regulation come out of governments all the time, because there's a lack of education. You have people regulating the internet that don't actually use the internet. There's a lot of corporate influence. It's hard to get this right. So I think we also need to have some compassion and some forgiveness and some kindness, and we need to educate each other. We need to read more smart things. And we also need to help educate our regulators. Hold your Congress people accountable. Go to their office hours. Talk to them. I talk a lot to regulators, more in Germany and the US, and always try to tell them what is going on. And for us at Mozilla, I think there are certain things we could do in the browser that we're currently looking at. For example, working with fact checkers. Can we put flags in the browser similar to what Facebook has tried? There's a whole bunch of initiatives out there where both for-profit companies, academia, and nonprofits are designing kind of a credibility scoring for news outlets. I don't know if that is going to be particularly helpful or not, but we're trying to engage with them, see if their criteria are transparent. Can we build something like that into a browser that would help you when you come across a news source, click in it, and either explains to you that this organization has been around for 150 years, employs this number of fact checkers, does independent research, and maybe you get more critical when you see that some news outlet was started last year and the funding isn't entirely clear. But again, we don't really understand what the consequences of that will be. So as always, we will we will design something, we will try it on a subset of our user population, work with social scientists, and hope to better understand what helps and what actually drives people even deeper into their echo chambers, what helps people really engage more critically with the content that you can see. But as I said, there is no simple solution, and I think this will just be an ongoing try something, learn something, do it better next time around, and then there's already a new challenge coming up.
Thanks for your answers, and I hear educate, educate, educate. And we don't have much time left, but I still want to open up the floor. So a challenge now is the most interesting question. That is the shortest. That's the one I want. And I want 2 of them. And this challenge is for you as well.
Oh, I was
Responding
afraid you'd say
as quickly as possible. Okay, we have one here. And, okay, if they're really, really quick, all 3 of you can go. And I'm hoping we have a microphone somewhere. I'll find one.
Otherwise, just who has the loudest voice? Go ahead, start.
Oh, we have a microphone. We do
Oh,
have a
excellent.
so well organized.
Thank you so much for your perspectives. My name is Emil. I'm a business graduate here from Oslo. So my question is on personal freedom. The way I understand the algorithms of some of the social platforms is that they are neurologically designed to enthuse you when you see something. So if I like Sarah, I see more photos of Sarah. If I dislike Nick, I see some photos of Nick as well. So I'm encouraged to interact more. Like attention is the currency on a lot of these platforms. So my question is, how much personal freedom is left for us when these solutions are designed to hold our attention or provoke us or polarize 2 parties, for example? What's left for us to choose?
What's left for us to choose? And meanwhile, I challenge you to be even quicker than that.
That's yours again.
Are we answering that one first?
Are we answering first?
Answering all of them at the same time.
At the same time. Cool. Okay. It gets challenging.
Wow. They're
Celia,
really
you're remembering the questions. You're gonna.
So you come from 3 different approaches to information, if you like. And one of the interesting facts of that is that they deal with information in different ways. And Anchor-Free deals with access to information at like a very broad spectrum way. Mozilla provides platforms for that information to be displayed. Facebook is a company that feeds you that information in some sort of way. And so I'm kind of curious in the context of fact-checking, but also things like when GoDaddy and the gang took down the Daily Stormer and the Facebook post you mentioned in Germany, how you deal with the idea of monopolization of fact, who owns reality, who gets to define what is fact-checked, and the ethics surrounding that in context of freedom of expression. And in context of the fact that on private platforms, the idea of freedom of expression might be limited to the terms and conditions of those private platforms versus public platforms. Thank you.
Thank you. So just repeating the questions, what's left for us to choose? Monopolization of facts. And
these are all like 3-word answers, I'm sure.
Mine is too complex. I will keep it close. Yeah.
Perfect.
You're hanging out with us later anyway.
Yeah, you can talk to them after.
She just said. So I start with the question, what's left for you? So you are in charge. You should be on any platform, whatever you use, you should be in charge. Algorithms, and I'm not an engineer, are incredibly, like at least the ones that I'm like when I look at Facebook or Instagram, incredibly complex. It's not that easy how you described it. It's even more complex since I think earlier the year we said that when Facebook started, it started with friends. Like all of this around it came later on. I told somebody much younger than me, I think yesterday, I said, when I started being on Facebook in 2007, there weren't even photos. So it's getting more complex and you should be in charge. So if you choose to see something, whatever you want, you can use that. And I think this is kind of you should be in control with all the controls that you can use. But at the same time, I think it's on companies or on providers of those platforms to make it easy that's kind of a challenge. But that's what it is. It should not be like you feel like like mingled and wrangled through algorithm, and you see things from Sarah, but you want to see Nick, or you want to see something from Aftenposten or whatsoever. So you should be in control. That's kind of my approach. Freedom of speech.
Freedom.
You
Yeah, I can. Sorry, can you give the 5-word synopsis again on exactly the?
Essentially, the idea of monopolization of fact to reality,
Mhm.
in terms of like government censorship versus corporate censorship versus fact checking versus free media and freedom of
Yep. I'm not sure if I can answer like the definitive, but basically, as we as Anchor Free, basically what we try to do, and what I try to do in any policy stuff that I try to do is create a level playing field. So net neutrality is about creating a level playing field where you can have a ton of, people rise up, and they might be giving false information, they might be giving right information. And I think actually Katharina touched on one point. That's when you get into this, there's, as you would expect, the kind of larger news organizations. Some of the people in them think that the answer is, okay, well, you just look, okay, we're funded, we've been around for a long time, so we should get the green star, and everybody else should get a yellow star, kind of thing. And I think that will hurt the kind of openness and the level playing field of allowing there to be multiple distribution of multiple news sources. I think on the government side and things like that, Anchor Free definitely takes the position that you shouldn't be able to. If someone in France is able to reach some website, someone in Iran should be able to reach that same website. They should be able to use Skype. They should be able to get to Facebook. And that's so our answer to basically not answering like who should be the definitive source of truth is basically let's create this level playing field where everybody can both create a business and get some distribution, and everybody can access all those different sources.
And I'm jumping in now in this discussion of freedom of speech to end the speech. A huge round of applause to our fantastic speakers, Katharina, Tina, Michael, and thanks to all of you.
And to Nora.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nora.
Thank you, Nora.